Hey everyone, an unfamiliar face to a lot of you, but a pretty familiar name. Here with D4 or Pat. First things first, I guess. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jason?
I'm good. I'm good. Weekend around the corner. Obviously, a good week.
Yeah.
With Doubleview seems like good past couple weeks. I figured let's kick things off. Maybe we give a little intro. I know a lot of people see you. Maybe even as the Doubleview hero. Um,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Farshad, the CEO, has called me and told me a lot of people have been calling him and about my report. So
Yeah, oh, it gets a lot of love. So, I mean, do you want to tell people, maybe they know you as D4. Do you want to introduce yourself and, maybe a couple, segments of your investment history? But we can start with, do you want to introduce yourself?
yeah, sure. Okay, I'm known as D4 on the on Twitter and all the social media, but my name's Patrick Dufour. I've been an investor in this sector, basically in the juniors, since 1997. So for the last 23 years, I've been investing solely in the sector. So I've got a lot of experience in terms of knowing, investment-wise, what to look for and the red flags. So I've got a passion for the juniors. There's nothing like the type of returns that these juniors provide. So to me, even throughout the 8-year bear markets, I'm still in the juniors. It's what excites me. It's what I love to do.
No, cool. Well, gold getting a ton of love. Obviously, the mining sector in general right now is getting a ton of love. Do you want to start out? Obviously, we're going to chat just double view. You want to start out with what made you, kind of, invest in Doubleview at the beginning and what you saw, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I've been in W since about 2012, which is actually before the initial discovery. The discovery hole was in about 2013. I got interested in Doubleview because at that time there was a movement. A lot of companies were going in the Shush Valley, and it was actually one of my friends that introduced me to it. He's working. He works at the Grasberg mine, and I looked at the information. I liked it. It was a grassroots play, meaning it had never had any drilling done on it on the property, so it was very risky. That's how I came about with the company. I saw the potential, and I started an initial position before the discovery hole,
Yeah.
and I've been adding ever since through thorough due diligence. And the story's slowly unfolding, and now it's starting to sprint to the finish line.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are probably familiar. Obviously, you put a lot of reports on your 2 cents, and honestly, you're pretty accurate for someone who doesn't work at the company. Do you want to maybe talk about what research goes into these reports and what makes you the king that everyone says you are?
Yeah, well, the way it started is I've never been on social media much. I've always done my own due diligence, and I do very thorough. I investigate everything I can, every single thing I research. And what happened was back a couple months ago, I started up a Telegram group, and what happened was I've noticed a lot of investors don't understand what they were invested in because at one point I actually did a poll and asked, it's a lot of people, a lot of shareholders do think Doubleview at some point is going to get bought out. But I did a poll asking, how much do you think Doubleview is going to be bought out for? And I put, 25 cents, 50 cents, all the way up to $5. And I was surprised of what the poll results were, and they were anonymous. And I seem to be one of the only ones putting a high number for a possible buyout. And when I saw those low numbers, I said to myself, a lot of people don't understand what they've invested in. So I started doing a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring, explaining to people what W is all about, the type of potential, calculating the tonnage, the size of Lyle, including the tonnage, and with what kind of average grades we can end up in terms of quantities of copper and gold, and then looking at in situ values as well, and comparing it to what other deposits got bought out. And my goal was to try to show investors, shareholders, what they truly invested in and what the potential was. And that's what got me started in sharing my research, and it led to creating these documents as well, these reports.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people love them. I know we're here again chatting Doubleview.
Yep.
Everyone's always, oh well, what's happening next? What's happening next? You've been investing in these companies for a while, and I agree with you. I think the education side of it is what people love
Yep.
about you and what you say. What do you think's next for Doubleview? Obviously, everyone is hoping that they get bought out, and Eric Sprott comes in and all this
Yep.
stuff that you read in the chat groups. What do you think is next? And, maybe, shed some light on that.
Yeah. Well, I think timing is everything in these markets, and I truly believe that although we're still waiting to find out what the financing is going to be and the drill plan, I fully expect to see Doubleview Gold, basically a new company, truly focused on taking this to the finish line, doing up an NI 43-101, and hopefully taking this out to the buyout. I believe they're going to be, I know the CEO has mentioned they're going to be very, very aggressive in terms of in the last video. And, I think with everything, all the tools that they have, the IP, the induced polarization map, which I call the treasure map, we saw in the last drill campaign, the strongest mineralization, and they actually used they confirmed that the IP was actually valid, and they used it basically as a treasure map, and they came out with the best grades. And when you look at hole 34, you also see the highest cobalt grades, the highest palladium grades, in terms of also the best gold equivalents in terms of they're only reporting right now in copper and gold. And what's very interesting is they've already have the Lyle is already 920 meters by 650 meters, and the depth is still open, but they haven't drilled to depth. And if you understand a porphyry system, the way the mineralization is pushed to the top through the magma, what happens is the higher grades are lower in the system. So once you actually drill into the feeder zone and at depth, then you'll see some of these glory holes like Red Chris put out many years ago, the 1,000 meters of super high grade gold and copper. So Doubleview right now has already found grades that are equal to or greater than current mines in operation, as I've already mentioned and demonstrated in my reports. And they have yet touched the what I believe is the good stuff deeper down. So what's very interesting is this next drill campaign is going to be focused on creating the resource estimate and going at depth. And I believe we'll see much better grades, probably most likely the best grades we've seen. So I think this next drill campaign is going to unlock the most value in terms of any drill campaign we've seen. Not just because of the size of the drill campaign, it's mainly because of we're finally going to get to see what lies below at the hat.
So what you want to see, and hey, I can mention it. The Farshad obviously do videos with him too. I'm sure
Yeah,
people have
yeah,
seen. What everyone's looking for, I guess, is really that drilling plan.
yeah.
Hoping that how many holes are we trying to do, where are we trying to do them, and hopefully we can get Farshad on a video to talk about those plans and what's next. You talked. You said you put out a poll that you got people to vote in for how much they think the buyout's going to
Yes.
be. What do you think the buyout's going to be?
Well, I'm not a professional investment advisor. Have no training in it. I'm not a geologist, but I'm very good with doing research. I'm very good with crunching numbers. I did a spreadsheet back in January I started converting all the copper equivalences all the way into gold equivalents. I started doing research on current mines in operation, porphyries in operation in BC, and I started comparing the numbers. And although I truly believed Doubleview was going to become a bio candidate, that really opened up my eyes, and I became even a bigger shareholder actually, because to me, when you have grades that are equal to or greater than in terms of when you compare it to a porphyry that's currently being mined, to me it's a no-brainer. And I looked at 4 different porphyries currently being mined, and if you look at the cutoff grades for copper, or you look at the copper equivalences that they were using in their resource estimates, Doubleview has just, if you look at 0.10 copper equivalents, Doubleview actually, every single hole that they've drilled, all 34 holes, including all their intervals, are all meet that cutoff grade, which is very amazing, because that means that's going to be used towards a resource estimate. And then when you look at 0.10 copper as a cutoff, every single hole that they've drilled, except one and a couple sub-intervals, actually meet that grade. And I also looked at some majors, some of the majors, major deposits currently being mined, and I compared my reports, the resource estimate, what they have for average in copper, the average in gold, and the average in silver. And I point out exactly every single hole that the Doubleview Gold has drilled, and most times we actually have more than their average. So when you consider taking a defined resource estimate, a 43101 that also includes all the glory holes, and drilling the feeder system to a small little, at that time, a company that had a market cap of $10 million, and you start noticing that we have similar grades or better grades than mines currently in operation, and we still haven't even drilled at depth or basically found the feeder system. To me, it became a no-brainer. It became so obvious to me that I actually went and sold my luxury sports car, and then I ended up buying more shares. In January, so I sold a luxury sports car, a Porsche 911, at the dealership in the middle of winter. And after I saw the light, I loaded up. I backed up the truck. To me, it's a no-brainer when you see these a small company that still hasn't drilled, and plus you look at the IP, the induced polarization footprint. We've got one of W's got one of the biggest footprints in North America, 3.7 kilometers by 2.7. So when I started crunching the numbers and looking at the in situ values of what this could go for, I'm not going to be specific, but because the problem is, it all depends on how aggressive they drill when we get the actual offer. So obviously, the sooner the offer comes, the lower it's going to be. But I honestly believe we can easily see a couple dollars. I'm not going to say exactly what, but I'm betting on a couple dollars at minimum, based on that. And then if Doubleview goes up and drills aggressively, the more they drill, the more value they unlock. We're gonna, obviously we could get a much higher takeover price. But right now, the problem I have is that sometimes I'll post my numbers, and especially when the stock was at 10 cents, and I get some pretty rude comments about, basically, it's kind of hard you lose credibility when something's at 10 cents and you're telling people it's going to be a couple dollars and it's going to be bought out. So
Yeah.
I'm sticking my, I'm valuing my credibility. I put my neck out on the line, and I put those numbers there for a reason. If I truly didn't believe in it, I wouldn't state those numbers. And I put my money where my mouth is. So I truly believe we could easily, and also when you look at other porphyries and what they went for, similar ones, a lot of them, we don't have many examples over the last couple of years, but you look at examples in South America and all around the world, and what they got, and this was like, we're talking about a couple of years ago. So when you look at, with the copper and the gold being up high, much higher prices, then it's easy to see that these values are going to go up. What do you expect in terms of where this could go?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Whenever I talk to Farshad, I'll say he sounds extremely happy. He's
Yeah.
laughing often. So, I just want to get that out there. Definitely, when I talk to people at Doubleview, they're happy. And I'll tell you that that was different when, I kind of met them for the first time. Not met them, but I met them in person for the first time at PDAC, where they were happy, but they weren't, over the moon like they are now. So to
Yeah,
me, like, that's the first great signal that I get. Obviously, they expect some good things. You can
yeah.
tell just by the way that they carry themselves. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
what
you can
kind of,
see the signs. It's
yeah,
easy to tell. I think what really was the game changer was Whole 34. The big issue with these small companies, and I invest only in these small little tiny juniors that are basically undiscovered with very small market caps. The problem is a lot of them can't get the financing, no matter how promising they think the property is. If you don't get the money, you can't go drill aggressively. And Farshad, the CEO, is a basically a one of a kind. I've never seen. It's in 23 years I've invested in probably hundreds in research hundreds of these juniors. He's very careful of dilution. So so he's very careful. So I think Whole 34 became a big game changer. And unfortunately, the market doesn't understand what kind of a game changer it is. Now, with the gold equivalence numbers, it makes it easier for investors to be able to compare and see what type of potential the hat has. But when we're using copper equivalents, the problem is, this is a gold bull market. This is not a copper bull market. So it doesn't cater to as many investors. A lot of investors, the problem I see is they're looking for the highest grade short interval. So they're focused on the gold grade, and they're not looking at the big picture.
yeah,
When you look at the big picture, and if somebody's truly looking for, hey, I'm looking for the biggest deposit, that's going to become a 10, 20 million ounce deposit, and they haven't uncovered it, well, a porphyry's your best bet to get it's always high tonnage, low grade, but high tonnage with low grade equals a lot of gold and copper and whatever other metals you have. So this market is very focused on, unfortunately, on deposits of high grade, probably non-economic, probably not enough continuity in terms of between the veins. So that's what I've been trying to do as well, is educate the market and educate current shareholders what the potential of these porphyries are. And majors are right now, majors are looking for porphyries. They're not
yeah,
looking for uh, porphyries can be mined for easily 20, 30, 40, 50, some like up to I think 75 years. So they're looking for they have high capex to get these projects started, but at least they know they're going to be mining these for 30, 40, 80 years or whatever. So they've got the economies of scale. So that's also why I got into writing these reports,
yeah,
is to educate people and to bring more eyes to the my theory as well is that I started educating the shareholders because I noticed that they didn't understand what they invested in, and I started noticing that a lot of people were now appreciative of knowing what they had invested in, and knowing that instead of selling it at 30 cents, 40 cents, most shareholders in my group now are all waiting for the buyout, because now I've no, I'm not telling them it's going to be bought out. I'm showing it in my reports, and I'm showing the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Of
yeah,
course, when you do these comparisons, I don't think there's any securities analysts that can actually account for every single variable. There's got to be thousands of variables if you're going to compare two deposits. But my reports are very simple, focused on the numbers and something that anyone can understand. When I read a securities analyst report on a company, I honestly look at the 20 pages. Sometimes I get bored reading them. They're kind of to me, there's something that's boring. I'll read them. I'll pay attention to certain section. I'll skip through them, and that's why I believe my reports cater to a different audience, just a general investor that can read these and simply understand, and not get bored reading a 20-page report that I've written.
yeah. Well, so You know what? I guess let's talk next steps. So you talk, mining, we talk financing. Let's go into a little bit more detail about financing.
Yeah,
Even talking, obviously Sprott's been aggressive. I know people drop his name in the group so much.
yeah,
What does Sprott Capital mean if they were if they invested in Doubleview, or if someone like Sprott Capital invested in Doubleview? What's kind of the next steps there for people like you said, who
mhm.
aren't too familiar with their investment? Do you want to maybe explain what that means for Doubleview?
Sure, sure. If most people are aware of the Sprott effect. Sprott is one of the industry leaders in terms of being knowledgeable. And Sprott brings he's got his own team of geologists and stuff like that. He's got probably, my guess is probably one of the best team to do the research on these companies. So what Sprott brings is brings a lot of credibility. Nobody's batting average is perfect. Nobody has a perfect batting average, but what he brings to the stock is that he brings attention. And the problem with Doubleview Gold is it's still a hidden gem, meaning it's still not discovered yet. What Sprott would do when he invests in these small companies is he brings attention to them. They become discovered, and so basically that's what Sprott brings to a company that he invests in. If you invest in a major or a mid-tier producer, the effect isn't as great. But when you see him investing, and I've benefited a lot from the Sprott effect. My most recent one was FVL. The day he announced the private placement at 17 cents, sometimes I'll buy these stocks, and I think as of today it was $1.30, and this is about 8 weeks later. So it attracts a lot of attention. This was something that was trading at 6 cents before, and it started to move. Eric Sprott got into it at 17, and he gave it some publicity. It was an undiscovered gem, just like Doubleview Gold. It was trading at about 6 to 10 cents for, if you pull up the 12-month chart on FVL, it was flat, just like Doubleview. So the biggest impact he has is when he invests in a company that's basically undiscovered, because he'll bring it into the spotlight. And what's interesting to note is during the Sprott Money wrap up this morning and last week, he has now been focusing on what he says he's on high tonnage, low grade, which is pretty interesting because W Gold is porphyry, and it's all about tonnage, low grade. So I find it very positive in that he's now focusing on these type of deposits. And we also saw him invest in Tudor Gold, 9.3 million or something like that recently. I think it was announced about a week ago, which is basically mainly a gold deposit, but they're calling it a porphyry style deposit. He's got copper in it, and he's put a lot of money into it, but that's not his first private placement. So it's very positive that he's now shifting focus, and he's talking about these high tonnage, low grade deposits, and W happens to have possibly one of the biggest ones in North America in terms of the IP footprint. So yes, there is a lot of talk about it, and Sprott right now has been putting a lot of money into these companies. And if you look at Twitter, there's even people on Sprott, they're calling it Sprott Watch. So a lot of people are trying to invest in these companies based off his investment criteria, and they're trying to buy companies that he's most likely to invest in. Because right now, every week, some days we're seeing Eric Sprott invest 2-3 private placements of these small companies. So now people are buying them. A lot of companies are on a Sprott watch. People want to invest. If you one time I invested right before Eric Sprott in a small company called Silverman Gold, and I was lucky enough to get in it before he got in. But a lot of what happens is when Eric Sprott invests in these small companies, a lot of people know the effect that he has on these companies, and they'll immediately buy into it. Because if you look at FVL, the thing Sprott announced, the private placement was announced at 17 cents, and it reached all the way up to it's at $1.30 about 8 weeks later or something. So as soon as he buys into it, a lot of people know the effect that he has on these small companies. They'll buy into it.
Yeah. You
So
you
it's
touch
very
on
beneficial.
you touch on a lot of stuff, and it's more, and I like the fact that you're touching on the other things Sprott brings to the table. I mean, obviously, he's got a great team. He's even got his own
Yeah.
marketing, his own IR team, and he knows, like, that mining gold is extremely hot right now. That's why you're seeing the activity pick up. And hey, if they're getting in a private placement at 17, even 20 cents, they know what happens to the stock afterwards. They're
Oh yeah.
they're doing extremely well. And he knows the weight that his name carries. And of course, he's not trying to water it down with anything,
Mm.
but I think he's definitely going about the right way, taking advantage of kind of the hot market. And yeah, I mean, everyone would love to get Sprott, but let's talk, worst case, Doubleview doesn't get Sprott, they get
Yeah.
someone else for a few million. You want to talk about, other financing kind of, I guess, potential, but just what that means for Doubleview. We say that they need money to do aggressive
Yeah.
drilling, but do you want to touch on that any more?
Sure. And in that ideal world, you want Eric Sprott because he'll definitely do wonders for the stock, and he makes shareholders very happy. But I'm going to mention one thing. Right now, a lot of people are saying, and I truly believe this is one of the greatest bull markets that ever in history that's underway, and the bull market's very young. But when you see an industry expert, a veteran of like Eric Sprott, still committing that much money into the juniors, it's telling you something. It's telling you that this industry, that the bull market is far from over. Because Eric Sprott would not be putting this kind of money into this sector if he knew in a couple months it's gonna. We all know what happens after a bull market. After a bull market, once the bubble bursts, then you've got maybe 5 to 8 years of a bear market, and those are very tough for investors if you're invested in that sector. So even if W doesn't get Eric Sprott, it's not the end of the world. The important thing is that the way I see it is that W needs to get the money to be able to drill aggressively in this bull market. What you want to see is, in these juniors, I've been through these bull markets and I've seen my stocks go from 10 cents to $2.50. And some of these stocks back then, I didn't do as much research. I didn't have as quality juniors. So, the tide raises all ships. So it doesn't matter what junior you're invested in, you're going to make money at some point. But the quality juniors are the ones that are going to go up the most. You can easily see these companies doing 10 to even 100 times returns in these if you get in low enough. But so the key thing is that in this bull market, you want to invest in a company that's going to be attracting attention. There's a couple thousand juniors on the TSX venture. They're all trying to get the investors' money. They're all competing. They've all got, if you talk to them, they all got high potential properties. They all, they all have, some have more potential, but they're all competing trying to get investors' money. So in this market, you want to be invested in a company that's going to have the news flow. For a junior explorer, the news flow is drilling. Do you want to be you want to bet on the horse that's going to be doing the most drilling, the most news flow, because that's what attracts investors. So what I want to see is even if we don't get Eric Sprott, I'm not worried. The potential is still there. I still want to see Doubleview raise the good amount of money and to show us that they're going to be aggressive and drill and basically create the news flow that this type of market investors are looking for. So no, it's not the end of the world if you don't get Eric Sprott, but we need, especially now that the stock price has gone up, these private placements are going to be less dilutive. So I think Doubleview, whereas in the past the CEO was very strategic. He didn't want to raise too much money. He didn't want to dilute too much. because we have to remember the CEO owns he owns about 24 million shares, a good 21, 22%, and he owns a significant chunk. So he's very careful of the money. He doesn't want to overly dilute, and he's never done a share consolidation either. So he's, a lot of the CEOs that you'll see is they'll dilute. They're not fully invested. They don't have a lot of skin in the game. They'll issue a lot of shares at very low prices. They'll go drill. Once you get too many shares, then what they do is they do a share consolidation, and then all of a sudden you go from 500-600 million shares and they're down to 50 million. They do that again, and then they just dilute and dilute. The good thing about Doubleview is that they've never done that. He's very, very careful. But what makes me very optimistic that they're going to go out and do a big drill campaign is that the stock price is higher. We're looking at, when I started my group, and when I started the first report that I did, the first one, I've done 3 of them, the stock price is around 10 cents. Now we're looking at, it hit as high as 29 this morning. So obviously we're looking at private placements that are going to be less dilutive. So ideally we want Doubleview to go out, raise good money, and if they raise good money and they have a good drill program, then I believe with the size of the footprint and everything that I mentioned in my reports, the potential, and I think it's game on. I think it's going to attract a lot of attention. I believe Doubleview in the past, the issue was that they were doing these smaller drill campaigns and not aggressive enough. And I believe the timing is right. In this type of market, we're going to see a very different company that's very focused on unlocking as much value, taking this out to the buyout. And that's what I fully expect to see. And that's what I'm invested in.